Good morning students. Today we are starting new chapter, very simple and a very small chapter, that is microbes in human welfare. First of all we need to understand this term microbes. In our smaller classes also we have talked about microbes. These are those minute size organisms which are generally not seen with our naked eyes. We need microscope to see these organisms. So these are simply microorganisms not visible with naked eyes. And there is a requirement of microscope to visualize them. Now these microbes are including virus is there, protozoans are there, bacteria is there, even some fungi that are very small in size like yeast is there. So these are some of the microbes. Even small virus, viroids, prions, all these are coming in microorganisms or microbes. See, if generally when microbe word came in our mind, then we see that these are going to be present everywhere. They are ubiquitous, they are going to be found excuse me, everywhere, soil, land, water, air, everywhere these microorganisms are going to be present. Plus some of them are going to survive in such extreme environmental conditions where other organisms cannot survive. Like some of them are going to survive in thermal vents where temperature is almost 100 degrees Celsius. So extremely high temperature where other organisms are not able to survive. They are also going to survive at very low temperature like -190 degrees Celsius. So some thermophiles are there, some psychrophiles are there which can survive at varied temperature range. This is so because they are having a high range of adaptability. That's why they are going to survive in such environmental conditions. Now another thing, they are associated with lots of diseases. They are going to cause diseases in plants, animals, including human beings also. So we talk about microbes as they are having some ill effects on our health. Plus they are going to spoil our food, most of the edible items. They are going to spoil our, like molds are there, clothes and other utensils also are spoiled by these microorganisms. But in this chapter we are not going to discuss about the things that microorganisms are causing disease or they are spoiling this. We are going to cause about the beneficial activities of microorganisms, and we are using these beneficial activities of microorganisms in our day-to-day life at a vast level. And the situation is that we cannot survive these microorganisms. After completing this chapter, we will come to know that how beneficial these microorganisms are to us and how we are using them in our day-to-day life. So that's why the name of the chapter is Microbes in Human Welfare. So the advantages of microorganisms, because they are involved in making our food or making our edible substances more nutritious, changing their flavor, adding texture to them. So various things these microorganisms are going to do. So microorganisms are also going to contribute in our household products, the daily food which we are taking. Then they are also important or having beneficial activity in various industrial products also. Lots of industries like beverage industries are there. They are working simply because of these microorganisms. So first of all we are going to discuss about the beneficial activities of microorganisms in our household product, and later on we will talk about the beneficial activity in industrial products. So microbes in our household products. I am taking a very simple example. We all are familiar with this product which we are going to use in our day-to-day life, that is curd. How this curd is going to form? This curd is simply formed by the fermentation of milk, because here some of the bacteria are present which are responsible for the partial degradation of milk protein. So the bacteria which are responsible for the conversion of milk into curd are Lactobacillus bulgaricus and Streptococcus thermophilus. So these are the bacteria which are responsible for the conversion of milk into curd. Actually what happens, in our milk there is a sugar present, that is lactose sugar. What these bacteria are going to do, these bacteria are going to convert this sugar into lactic acid. So they are increasing acidity in milk, flavor will be increased, plus they are increasing the amount of vitamin B in our curd. So nutritional value is also going to be increased. That's why I was saying that these microorganisms are responsible for adding flavor, texture, plus they are also enhancing the nutritional value of our food. So this is what happening in curd. Now the bacteria that are involved in curd formation, they are known as lactic acid bacteria, or we simply write them as LAB. So there are lots of bacteria which are involved in the formation of lactic acid. Now how this curd is going to be formed? What is the normal process of forming this curd? We simply know we are doing this at our home daily. So we are going to heat or boil the milk at the temperature of almost 76.6 degrees Celsius. Then again we are going to cool down this milk up to a temperature of 52, or you can say simply 50 degrees Celsius. And then we are going to add small amount of curd, very small volume of curd in our milk. Reason? Because this curd is going to act as an inoculum. Because this curd is already having bacteria. So these bacteria will be introduced into our milk, and there they are going to grow and multiply, and in a time period of almost 6 to 8 hours, they are going to produce lactic acid, and the milk will be converted into curd with more nutritional value. The texture of the milk is going to be changed. Because of the presence of lactic acid, the flavor will be changed. So this is the one fermented product which we are generally using in our day-to-day life. The second one is also very common, in which fermentation of dough is taking. We are eating idli, dosa, then jalebi is there. So there are different recipes in which fermentation technique is used. So for different food products, dough is fermented, and there are lots of microorganisms which are responsible for the fermentation of dough. Food products are like idli is there, dosa is there, then jalebi is there, in which dough is required for fermentation. What we are going to do? We are just keeping the dough overnight for 10 to 11 hours, and the microbes that are present in air, these microorganisms are going to change the texture of this dough. These microbes, the simple examples are Leuconostoc mesenteroid, Another one is Streptococcus faecalis. So these are simply present in our environment, and they are responsible for changing the texture of our dough. When we are going to see our dough after fermentation, there will be rise in the level of the dough. That is because of the production of CO2 by these microorganisms, and because of this CO2, their liberation of CO2, the dough is going to rise. Exactly same thing we are going to see when bread is made. In bread, baker's yeast is used, that is Saccharomyces cerevisiae. So Saccharomyces cerevisiae is a common yeast that is used in bakery industry. So that is also going to produce carbon dioxide and alcohol, and because of production of this carbon dioxide is going to move out. It is going to require space to move out. So holes will be made in bread from where this carbon dioxide is going to be removed. So our bread will become more spongy because of the, or more porous because of the presence of these holes. So this is how different microorganisms are involved in the fermentation of dough. Another one is, these are the products we are using in our daily life. Another one is cheese. Cheese is another product of milk. So here partial digestion of fat and casein part of milk is occurring. So milk, casein, milk, fat and casein. We know casein is a protein, soluble protein, milk soluble protein. So milk, fat and casein are going to be partially degraded, and again it will be curdy because of the presence of microorganisms. The flavor and texture will be changed, and there will be more nutritional value. And different type of cheese are present depending upon which microorganism is going to ferment milk. Like Swiss cheese is there, Roquefort cheese is there, cottage cheese is there. So there are lots of varieties of cheese that are present. Some simple one is, say, cottage cheese, and the microorganism that is responsible for this cottage cheese is basically Streptococcus lactis and Lactobacillus. Lactis and Lactobacillus. So they are going to convert milk into cottage cheese. Second is Swiss cheese, that is more porous. Big holes are present in this Swiss cheese, and the microorganism, the bacteria that is responsible is Propionibacterium sheremanii. So Propionibacterium sheremanii is leading to the production of Swiss cheese. There is Roquefort cheese also, in which a mold is involved, a fungus is involved over here, that is Roquefort, Penicillium roqueforti. So it is Roquefort cheese that is produced by a mold, Penicillium roqueforti. So this is how different microorganisms are involved in production of different type of cheese. These are some of the common. There are some other fermented products also that are used in the country, like there is a drink, toddy, that is most common in South India. In South, people used to consume it. That is because of the fermentation of latex that is obtained from this toddy plant or coconut water. They are fermented. Then sauerkraut is there, that is obtained by the fermentation of cabbage. So these are various household products that are produced because of fermentation from different microorganisms. Now what happens when we are going to eat these, when we are going to consume these fermented products, then these microorganisms, our body is going to get these microorganisms when we are going to consume these. So when these microorganisms are going to enter in our digestive tract, they are going to survive in our digestive tract, and they are known as probiotics. So what these probiotics are? These are the microorganisms that are surviving in our gastrointestinal tract. More the fermented food we are going to consume, more probiotics we are going to have. Now what these probiotics are going to do in our body? These probiotics are important because they are going to help in the synthesis of various vitamins in our body. They are also helping in our food absorption, food digestion as well as absorption, plus they are checking the bad bacteria. Bad bacteria means they are going to check the growth of disease causing bacteria. That's why they are important for our body. So consuming curd or consuming other idli, or you can say dosa, or other fermented food products are making our gastrointestinal tract more and more healthy. What these probiotics are going to do? They are going to lower down the cholesterol level, reduce the cholesterol level. They are going to lower down the blood pressure. These are the beneficial effects. Then they are going to prevent the damage of liver, that is because of alcohol consumption. Most of the people consume alcohol, and because of which there is liver damage. So these probiotics are going to prevent liver damage. They are going to prevent constipation. They make our gastrointestinal tract healthy. And they are also involved in bone formation, healthy bone formation, because they are increasing calcium and magnesium absorption. So helping in bone formation by increasing calcium absorption. So this is how fermented food products are beneficial for us. They are having lot of beneficial impact on our body. Now we are going to discuss about the microbes that are functioning in industrial products. So next topic is microbes in industrial products. There are lots of industrial products in which we are using microorganisms. These are alcoholic products, or some non-alcoholic products are there, like there is production of beer, wine, then whiskey. There is curing of non-alcoholic are curing of coffee beans, tea leaves, vitamin production. Then we are having antibiotics are produced from these microorganisms. Enzymes are being produced using these microorganisms. Various organic acids are also produced, like lactic acid is there, acetic acid is there. So this is how various hormones are produced. These microorganisms, they are involved in the production of large number of industrial products, and this is making our industrialization more successful. Now if we talk about the beverages, alcoholic beverages, these are our alcoholic beverages that are having alcoholic content, and these are our non-alcoholic beverages. So first of all, let's talk about the alcoholic beverages, which are simply beer, wine, whiskey. See, simply if we talk about the alcoholic beverages, then some of the alcoholic beverages are undistilled, like beer, wine, they are undistilled and they are having less content of alcohol, while some are the distilled one, more purified form with high content of alcohol, like there is rum is there, then different ones are there, like brandy is there. So these are the distilled one. Now in the production of alcohol, the microorganism which is commonly used is yeast. There are different strain of yeast that are used. Yeast is our Saccharomyces cerevisiae. If we talk about yeast, we know it is a unicellular fungus. There are two type of yeast depending upon the function they are performing. One yeast is known as baker's yeast and second one is known as brewer's yeast. Baker's yeast, we generally have discussed that the yeast that is used in bakery industries, that is going to produce bread, or you can say cake will be produced, that will be more spongy, porous because of the liberation of carbon dioxide. So the strain that is used in bakery industries to simply produce bread, cakes, that is the baker's yeast. The second, brewer yeast is used in beverage production, means from different nutritive medium, like there will be grape juice or sugar solution, glucose solution, that will be fermented by the yeast and there will be production of alcohol. Plus again carbon dioxide will be liberated and there will be production of alcohol, means our beverages will be produced, that is brewer's yeast. So Saccharomyces cerevisiae is used for many purposes in bakery industry also and in beverage industries also for the production of beverages, alcoholic beverages. Now these again alcoholic beverages can be the undistilled or they can be the distilled one. Now if we talk about how fermentation occurs in industries, fermentation we know this is the anaerobic breakdown of a substance in any of the useful substance that is being used by human beings with the help of microorganisms, like yeast is used. Now fermentation can be done by two types. It can be done by batch process. Industrial level, on industrial level the fermentation can be done by batch process. What is done in batch process basically? There are fermenters, steel fermenters, big size fermenters are there in which nutritive medium is added. Inside that nutritive medium initially inoculum is added. Inoculum means the microorganism like yeast that is present in market in form of powder or cake. It is easily available. So small amount of yeast is added in the initial stage. Now this yeast is going to consume the nutritive medium, it is going to increase in number and it is going to produce alcohol or product will be produced. So here one time the nutritive medium is added in the biofermenter, inoculum will be added and process of fermentation is going to happen. Now this after when this process of fermentation is going to its maximum level, after that product will be recovered. So there will be addition of nutritive medium plus inoculum will be added, then production at highest level, and when it will be produced at highest level, after that product will be recovered. This is done in batch process, means initially addition and afterwards, after completion, removal of product is there. In between there will be nothing added or removed from the biofermenter. The second one is continuous process. What is done in continuous process? Initially nutritive medium will be added, inoculum will be added, but after fermentation has started, in between time intervals, product will be continuously removed from the biofermenter and new nutritive medium will be continuously added. So at the same time there is removal, recovery of product as well as addition of new nutritive medium. So it is going to be a continuous process. So fermentation can be done by both these processes, batch process or you can say continuous process. Now when we are talking about industry, then they are always money centered. So what these industries are going to do, they are going to hire scientists for their process of fermentation. These scientists are going to work on everything, means the strain which they are going to choose for the process of fermentation, what will be the pH that will be good, temperature, the oxygen requirement, sterilization of the biofermenters, they are going to focus on everything. They are going to do a research on all these things. Then they are going to design a glass fermenter, a small glass fermenter in laboratory in which they will perform this process of fermentation, and if everything is okay, then they are going to do this fermentation on a large scale and they will replace this glass fermenter with a stainless steel fermenter where large amount of nutritive medium will be used and the production will be increased. So this is how these alcoholic beverages are produced at industrial level. The next industrial product is antibiotics. What these antibiotics are? These are the chemicals which are being recovered from the microorganisms and they are going to stop the growth of other microorganisms. So these are chemicals recovered from microorganisms and stop the growth of other organisms or other microorganisms. So these are antibiotics. Again they are obtained from microorganisms, different microorganisms. Now the first antibiotic we already know, that was penicillin, that was obtained from a fungus Penicillium notatum by Alexander. That was an accidental discovery by Alexander Fleming. Now what are the characteristics these antibiotics are going to show? What, or simply we can say what characteristic a antibiotic should have. So the first characteristic that an antibiotic should have is it should be a broad spectrum antibiotics. Broad spectrum simply means it will be able to stop the growth of, or it will be able to affect the growth of large number of microorganisms. That is broad spectrum antibiotics. So it is going to influence large number of microorganisms. Now some of the antibiotics, they are narrow spectrum. Narrow spectrum means they are going to act upon only specific microorganisms. They are going to alter or stop the growth of only some of the microorganisms, some specific, and they are not going to work for all. So a good antibiotics is always broad spectrum, that is influencing more microorganisms. Second thing, these antibiotics, they are going to target a specific pathway of the microorganism. and that specific pathway is vital for the microorganism. Means if this pathway is not going to happen, microorganism is going to die. Like cell wall synthesis. If cell wall synthesis is not going to happen in bacteria, bacteria is going to die. So they are going to target specific pathway of microorganism. Another thing, antibiotics should not affect the activity of host cell. Otherwise what happens? There will be side effects of antibiotics, because they are targeting microorganisms plus they are targeting the host cells also. So there will be no effect on host cells. That is another characteristic of antibiotics. Now which microorganisms are going to, what are the sources of these antibiotics? Another characteristic, yes, one more characteristic of antibiotic is that it is going to affect those microorganisms also which have developed resistant. So against them also antibiotics should be functional. Now there are lots of microorganisms that are giving antibiotics. Some common one are, there are common group of microorganisms like eubacterials, actinomycetes, fungi. These are common group of microorganisms that are giving antibiotics. Like in eubacterials, we are having bacillus, which are common source, and pseudomonas, which are common source of antibiotics. Then in actinomycetes, we are having streptococcus and nocardia. So generally these are giving us antibiotics, and fungi also. Penicillium is there, Cyclosporium is there, Aspergillus is there. So these are microorganisms from which we are extracting out large number of antibiotics, and then these antibiotics are given to individuals which are suffering from different disorders. Now there is one thing that is associated with these antibiotics, that is antibiotic resistant. What this antibiotic resistant is? The microorganisms, they become resistant to antibiotics and they will not have any effect of these antibiotics. How they are going to develop this resistant? Either they are going to change their structure, and because of this change in their structure, antibiotic is not able to enter into cell because of the change in the structure. This is one thing the microorganisms are going to do to attain resistant against antibiotics. Or second thing they are going to do, they are going to change that specific protein to which the antibiotic is going to bind. So that particular structure will be changed, so there will be no binding of antibiotic take place, and if no binding is taking place, then action of antibiotic is not going to happen. So this is about antibiotics, and in our next class we will talk about other industrial products like enzymes, vitamins, hormones.